Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Mastermind Millennial channel. I'm EJ. Today I want to talk about what is not in the news. Alright, here we go. So, for 2 years, media outlets have been telling the American public that Trump is a Russian troll and that he colluded with the Russians to overtake the government. Sure, right, yeah, we all get that. Anyway, currently Robert Mueller and his team aren't bringing up any more indictments. Funny. If there was something there would be more indictments. Well, you might ask, what about those indictments of those 11 Russians? Right, those 11 Russians that will never be extradited? Yeah, it's nothing more than words on paper with nothing to stick them with. They're not going to grab these 11 Russians and Russia's not going to send them over to be prosecuted. It's just a waste of time. A $35 million investigation, 2 years in the making, thousands of subpoenas, and there's no there. I wish the media would just settle it. Let's move on. There's bigger things to think about, right? Yeah, there are. Alright, so where am I going with this? What is it that's not in the news? Alright? We can make two conclusions about the Robert Mueller findings, okay? One, he says there's no collusion. Two, he doesn't offer any obstruction. Three, if there's no obstruction, if there's no collusion, there is no obstruction. So where do we go with this? Well, House Democrats seem to believe that because their top lawyer couldn't come up with something, they're going to come up with something. You mean to tell me that congressional Democrats and maybe some Republicans are going to do a better job from Robert Mueller? No, they're not. This is a bunch of grandstanding. What's next on the table? Oh, we have to see the full report. Yeah, good luck with that. They're not going to see a full unredacted report. Why? Because the law stipulates that you have to protect grand jury information, testimony, all that good stuff. So what is it? It's really a smokescreen. It's really a way for them to say, okay, we didn't really do good, but we're going to now focus on this other thing. Just take the hit and keep it moving. So what is not in the news? There's this case called Mueller versus Barr. The Attorney General got a boost from the DC Circuit Court, which solidified the notion that grand jury information / testimony is not under the purview of Congress. Now let me explain. Congress just can't simply say we need to see the information for a number of reasons. We can't trust Congress because what are they going to do? They're going to leak information. So we have to protect people, and for good reason. If I'm called up on a grand jury, that's really private. Who knows what people would do with information of citizens that they found on this grand jury that either did not indict or did indict the president. This is why we have to protect the American citizen. This call from House Democrats is nothing more than a bunch of baloney. The media is not covering this ruling because this ruling boosts the DOJ stance that they are not going to give a fully unredacted report. But this is not in the news because they can't argue this point. They can't go against U.S. law, right? So there's a good report in National Review. I'm going to read an excerpt from this report. It says here, at issue with this question, okay, or the issue is this question, does a federal court have the authority to order disclosure of grand jury materials if the judge decides that the interest of justice warrants doing so? Or is the judge limited to the exceptions to grand jury secrecy that are spelled out in Rule 6E of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure? The DC Circuit Court, McKeever's ruling holds that the text of the Rule 6E controls. Consequently, judges have no authority to authorize disclosure outside of the rule. This is why it's not in the news, right? This is significant for the Mueller report because Rule 6E does not contain an exception to secrecy that would permit disclosure to Congress. This current ruling is the law in DC, in the circuit court where Mueller's investigation took place. So naturally, the Justice Department must follow it. And it is, again, an affirmation of the Justice Department's position on the law. Fancy that. So what does this mean? Alright? What does this mean? This means Attorney General Barr must redact grand jury material from the Mueller report before disclosing it to Congress. This is United States law. The Congress cannot advocate for breaking the law because they want to do more investigations. What's the point of the law? Okay, Congress does not have that power. If Congress wants the full report to be, if they want the full report, they're going to have to amend Rule 6E. Okay, if Congress wants a full report, they have to amend Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E. But wait, here is the funny thing. Congress has not amended the rule, okay? And they show no indication of doing it, alright? This is why I call it a smokescreen. They're yelling and kicking and screaming, but they know they can't do anything, right? So, Congress has the power to create laws. This is constitutional, right? And with the right majority, they can even override a presidential veto. Now, the Supreme Court has opined that if Congress is to amend the rule, it must do so from legislation. But they're never going to get there. So all this screaming, huffing, and puffing is useless. The Supreme Court is not even going to follow this case because they're going to say, look, we have no authority here. If you want the grand jury information, change the law. Because that's what Congress is supposed to do. But we know they can't seem to do that. So, there's no collusion, right? If there's no collusion, there's no obstruction. So what is the beef, alright? Again, there is no beef. It's a smokescreen, alright? I think the report is probably more damning on both sides more than it is to the Trump administration. And I have a strong indication that when this redacted report comes out, we're going to see a lot of underhanded things going on both sides. And I bet you they're going to downplay the report because it's going to be too revealing. Sometimes when you're looking for what you want, you get it. But it's not always going to work out in your favor. Alright? No collusion, no obstruction. Okay? Where is the obstruction? Somebody please tell me, where's the obstruction? I haven't seen it. Okay? And when did we decide to jump from collusion to obstruction? Alright? So the Democrats' top lawyer cannot find collusion. It's quite on obstruction, and we expect a bunch of unqualified, elected people to find what Mueller couldn't find? Really? Really? No, that's not going to happen. Alright? I'm not buying it. Barr will release everything he can and redact what he must. Alright? Have to protect the United States citizens. If there's no rule of law, throw it out and everybody's a victim. Everybody's a Russian agent. What do you think? Look up Rule 6E for yourself. I'm going to leave the article that I read in the description. I'm going to leave a link to the rule in the description. I'm going to leave a couple of other things. You know what? You know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to keep watching because this is interesting. This is actually entertaining. Now when Game of Thrones comes on, forget it. I don't care about Congress anymore. They ain't doing nothing. What do you think? If you read the rule and you read what United States law says, what power does Congress have to overwrite United States law? I'm sorry, but that shouldn't be. And we all know this. But some are so hell-bent on overturning a legal election, they're willing to say that the ends justify the means. And this is not the case. We do not need to go down the spiral of opening up every can of worms just to prove a point. My view is this. I'm not going to pay this any attention. This is all a smokescreen. It's a bunch of loud noise. What do you think? Read the information for yourself. You know, be informed. Share your thoughts. And let's keep it moving. There's bigger things to worry about other than what House Democrats want to do. They're going to investigate this till kingdom come. And I tell you what, this is going to be the story they follow. Because if they don't come up with the platform, they're not going to beat Trump in 2020. If the Democrats can get rid of all this foolishness and come up with a good platform, they have a high likelihood of taking back the presidency. And I wouldn't mind if they could put up a candidate that's worth something. But right now, it's a bunch of children or a bunch of fools driving the ship. Hey, this is the Mastermind Millennium Channel. My name is EJ. Till next time, stay informed.